The morning sun gleamed against a row of immaculate glass panels, each one reflecting the glossy silhouettes of cars so rare they looked like jewels on display. The city's most prestigious luxury dealership had just opened its doors, and customers who could barely afford a glance pressed their noses against the glass while suited men and women inside whispered about horsepower, speed, and money. But Sophie didn't see dollar signs. She saw stories. At 12 years old, she had a fascination with machines most kids her age didn't understand. While her classmates filled notebooks with doodles of princesses and superheroes, Sophie's were covered in diagrams of engines, carburetors, and wiring systems. She'd grown up in the workshop of her father, Mark, one of the best mechanics in town. She loved the smell of oil, the sound of tools clinking against concrete, and the quiet magic of broken things coming alive again under her father's steady hands. Today wasn't supposed to be about cars, though. Mark had brought her along simply because he had no one to leave her with while he delivered a set of rare imported parts to the dealership's garage. But while he disappeared into the back with a fellow worker, Sophie wandered. She slowed near the center of the showroom, her wide eyes falling on it. A jet-black Lamborghini Aventador, its frame low and predatory, like a panther crouched to strike. Sunlight pouring through the glass roof kissed its curves, setting off glimmers of light that seemed to call to her. Her breath caught. It's perfect. She inched closer. Every line of the car looked like it had been carved with purpose, every detail humming with silent energy. She imagined the engine beneath, a beast waiting to roar. Her small hand lifted, trembling, drawn to the smooth, impossible surface of the door handle. Her fingertips brushed metal. Hey! The single word boomed across the dealership like a whip cracking against silence. Sophie flinched so hard she stumbled back, her heart leaping to her throat. From the far side of the showroom, a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit strode toward her, his polished shoes clicking like a countdown. He carried himself with the kind of authority that turned heads before his words even landed. His jaw was sharp, his hair combed to ruthless perfection, and his eyes, cold as glass. Adrian Blackwell. Even Sophie, who barely paid attention to business news, had heard the name. Blackwell Motors was a giant in the industry, producing some of the most advanced vehicles in the world. And here he was, not as a face on a magazine cover, but as a living, breathing storm heading straight for her. What do you think you're doing? His voice wasn't loud this time, but it was sharp enough to cut. People in the showroom stopped whispering. All eyes turned to the little girl standing too close to his prized Lamborghini. Sophie's throat went dry. She wanted to speak, but the words jammed behind her lips. Answer me, Adrian barked. Do you know how much this car costs? More than your father will make in his lifetime. Her father's voice cut in desperately. Sir, please, she didn't mean anything. Sophie, get away from there. Mark rushed forward, wiping sweat and grease from his calloused hands onto his coveralls as though that might make him more presentable. He gave a nervous bow of his head, his voice trembling. I'm so sorry, Mr. Blackwell. She's just a child. But Sophie, her cheeks burning, suddenly found her voice. I wasn't going to hurt it. She blurted, her small fists clenched. I just wanted to see how it feels. The billionaire's eyes narrowed, scanning her from head to toe like she was an insect on his pristine glass. His lip curled. Children like you don't belong anywhere near machines. Like this. Do you have any idea what a single scratch would cost? Go back to your toy cars before you ruin something you can't fix. The humiliation burned hotter than fire in Sophie's chest. She wasn't some careless child. She knew cars better than anyone in her class, maybe better than most of the engineers here. But Adrian's words pressed down on her like a weight, making her feel small, insignificant. Mark placed a hand on her shoulder, trying to guide her back, his voice soft and apologetic. Come on, Sophie. Let's not make trouble. But Sophie's gaze lingered on the Lamborghini. Something about the way it sat there didn't feel right. She tilted her head, listening, not to the words flying around her, but to the machine itself. Even idle, cars spoke. And this one was whispering that it wasn't entirely alive. There was a faint, inconsistent whir beneath the hood, the kind of glitch she'd heard in her father's garage many times before. It wasn't running right. The engine wasn't syncing with the computer system. Her father might have missed it, but Sophie didn't. Adrian continued lecturing Mark, his words filled with disdain about raising children with boundaries. Sophie barely heard him. Her eyes flicked to a counter near the car, where the ignition key sat, gleaming silver. Carelessly left out. Almost inviting. Her pulse quickened. She didn't mean to defy anyone. But something in her refused to let the car's struggle go unanswered. Before she realized what she was doing, her feet carried her forward. She snatched the key. Gasps rippled across the room. "Sophie!" Her father shouted, horror flashing in his eyes. Adrian's face turned crimson. "What are you? Put that down immediately." But Sophie had already slipped into the driver's seat, her small frame dwarfed by the leather interior. She barely reached the pedals, but she wasn't here to drive. She was here to listen. Her fingers moved across the controls, pressing the ignition button. The Lamborghini coughed, a broken growl. Sophie bit her lip, then adjusted a sequence of switches her father had once taught her about. The trick wasn't force, it was timing, patience, and understanding the rhythm of the machine. She pressed again. This time, the car roared to life. The sound filled the dealership, deep and flawless, vibrating through the glass walls. It silenced everything, every whisper, every gasp, even Adrian Blackwell himself. Sophie sat there, her hands on the wheel, her wide eyes glowing with triumph. She hadn't just started it, she'd fixed it. The billionaire CEO stared, his jaw slack. For weeks, his top engineers had struggled with a stubborn software glitch that wouldn't let the Aventador start reliably. They had poured hours and money into diagnosing the fault. Yet here, before his eyes, a mechanic's 12-year-old daughter had solved it in seconds. And Adrian Blackwell, man who thought he had seen everything, was left utterly speechless. The roar of the Lamborghini echoed through the dealership like a lion awakened from slumber. Customers, salesmen, and mechanics froze in place, their heads turning in disbelief. A 12-year-old girl had just done what an army of seasoned engineers could not. Adrian Blackwell's eyes, sharp as steel, locked onto Sophie. He had barked at countless executives, crushed rivals, and silenced boardrooms with a single glare, but now, for the first time in years, he found himself unable to speak. The child sat in the driver's seat, her small hands gripping the steering wheel, her face glowing with the pride of discovery. She didn't look smug. She didn't look afraid. She looked right at home. Slowly, Adrian stepped forward, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. His voice, when it finally came, was unsteady, not with anger, but something rarer. "What did you just do?" Sophie blinked at him, almost confused that he had to ask. The engine wasn't syncing with the system. The sensors weren't reading properly. It just needed a reset, and a little patience. Her tone was so matter-of-fact, so innocent, it made the billionaire feel ridiculous. Mark, pale as a ghost, rushed forward, wringing his cap in his grease-stained hands. "Sir, I swear she didn't mean any harm. Please, forgive her. She's just curious, that's all. I'll make sure it never happens again." But Adrian ignored Mark completely. His gaze stayed on Sophie. The memory of late nights and frustrated calls from his top engineers flashed through his mind. 3 weeks of wasted time, millions of dollars in delays, and this girl had cut through the problem like it was child's play. "You understood the glitch?" he asked again, his voice lower now, almost incredulous. Sophie gave a small shrug. It was obvious. The car was trying to start, but it didn't know how. Someone had to show it. Her father looked at her like she was speaking another language. "Sophie, what are you talking about?" "She fixed it," Adrian said flatly, his eyes narrowing as if studying a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. He crouched slightly, bringing himself level with Sophie. For a man known for intimidation, the move was shocking. His words were softer now, though still edged with disbelief. "Do you always see machines like this?" Sophie hesitated. "Not see. Feel. They don't talk in words, but I understand them." The silence that followed was heavy. Employees shifted nervously. Customers whispered. And then, to the astonishment of everyone present, Adrian Blackwell did something no one expected. He smiled. It wasn't wide. It wasn't warm. But it was real. "Get out of the car," he said gently. Sophie obeyed, sliding off the leather seat. Her sneakers made a tiny squeak against the polished floor as she landed. Adrian straightened to his full height, his presence filling the room again. But this time, his gaze wasn't cold, it was calculating. He turned to Mark. "Your daughter may have just solved what an entire division of my company could not. Tell me, Mark, what else can she do? Mark's jaw worked, but no words came out. He looked from his daughter to the billionaire, torn between fear and pride. She just likes tinkering, sir. Fixing things. Ever since she was little, she'd sneak into the garage. I thought it was just a hobby. Adrian's eyes flicked back to Sophie. It's not a hobby. It's instinct. And instinct like this, he paused, almost weighing the word, is priceless. Mark bristled, protective. Sir, with all due respect, she's just a child. Don't go filling her head with dreams. Adrian cut him off sharply. Is that what you were going to say? Don't fill her head with dreams. His tone made the entire room stiffen. Mark flushed. I don't want her disappointed. People like us don't get chances like that. Adrian's expression softened, not with pity, but with recognition. For a brief moment, the mask of the ruthless CEO slipped, revealing a man who remembered his own climb from nothing. He saw in Sophie the fire he had once carried, the same fire that had built his empire. He extended his hand, not to Mark, but to Sophie. How would you like to come work for me someday? The room gasped. Customers and employees alike exchanged stunned looks. A billionaire CEO offering a mechanic's daughter a place in his empire. It was unthinkable. Mark's mouth fell open. She's 12. Adrian didn't blink. Children grow up. And when she does, I want her at Blackwell Motors. Sophie stared at the outstretched hand. Her father's words of caution clashed with the spark of excitement racing through her veins. She wasn't sure what she wanted in life yet, but she knew one thing: cars were her language. And here was the man who ruled the kingdom of machines, asking her to join him. But Sophie didn't take his hand right away. Instead, she tilted her head, her eyes shining with boldness. Only if I get to design cars that everyone can afford. Not just rich people. The crowd gasped again. Had she really just said that to Adrian Blackwell? For a moment, the billionaire stared at her, stunned. Then, to the shock of everyone, including himself, he laughed. Not a polite chuckle, not a scoff, but a deep, genuine laugh that filled the dealership. You drive a hard bargain, young lady, he said finally, shaking his head with amusement. Very well. Perhaps one day, you'll remind me what this industry is supposed to be about. He lowered his hand, but the deal was sealed. In that instant, Sophie wasn't just a mechanic's daughter anymore. She was a spark in the mind of a man who built empires. Mark pulled Sophie close, still overwhelmed. Sir, are you serious about this? Adrian turned to him, his voice calm but commanding. Deadly serious. Talent like hers doesn't appear twice. You'd be wise to nurture it. And with that, Adrian Blackwell, the billionaire feared for his temper and revered for his empire, strode out of the dealership. But this time, people didn't whisper about his power or his wealth. They whispered about the little girl who had humbled him with nothing more than curiosity and courage. As the sound of the Lamborghini's flawless engine hummed behind her, Sophie looked at her father and whispered, Dad, did I do something bad? Mark's throat tightened. He crouched to meet her eyes, tears threatening to fall. No, Sophie. You did something extraordinary. What neither of them knew was that this moment, the day a billionaire yelled at a mechanic's daughter for touching his Lambo, would become the start of a story told in boardrooms, garages, and classrooms alike. A story of a girl who dared to touch a dream, and in doing so, changed the course of her life forever.